All right, we're going, man.
Okay.
So yeah, I actually drove by there today and pleasantly surprised. Let's just put it that way. It's been coming up, so uh, it's not full pool, but it's pretty damn close.
Is it within like a foot or two?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. I've never been out there when it's this high. Um, after our tournament, I don't go back out there even though it's fun fishing out there. I've never seen it high. So
Well, that's kind of the issue with doing tournaments anyway. Is I was just talking to a guy about this yesterday. You get focused in on the waters that you're going to be fishing. So you go out and you concentrate on those spots, and then it's like Moses. I don't know when I'll ever get back out there until I don't even know if I will this year. You know,
probably not. Yeah.
and same thing with potholes. I'll go out and do some fishing this weekend, and then the tournament, and then you're focused on Banks Lake, and then
Yeah.
probably won't touch it again until fall time.
I like it that way though. It's something new. I hate, repetitive. Hey, let's go back out there again and again and again. So that's nice. Going to a new body of water every couple. In our case, it's usually about once a month.
Yeah.
I actually like that.
Well, I do too. It's just, like in the wintertime for me, those are close.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's just easy to pop out there and fish them.
Have you ice fished it before?
Oh, yeah.
Have you?
Yeah. Yeah. We did a lot of
So
ice fishing in the coulee.
so I'm interested. I've ice fished probably more than anybody in the state. Being that's where I came from, and that's all I did, obviously, in the wintertime out there. But I actually brought last year when I went back to Bemidji, I brought back my otter flip over shack and everything. Of course, now that world has changed to all electric. I still have an old gas auger, um, but I've got the same setup that I had back in 2008 that I was pulling up on Lake Winnipeg. It's a real nice setup, and
Yeah.
it's here out at my place now. And this year I probably could have went out. There was some ice on banks.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I don't have that gravitational pull to go ice fishing when I can take my boat out to the Tri-Cities.
Well, and see, that's
You
just
know,
it too. You end up going kind of in either direction. I love ice fishing, and if
oh, it's a
there's ice out,
blast.
I'm going to do it. I mean, we went up to Curlew, I think, 3 times this year. I went out to Trail Lake. She's a handful of times. Went to Banks. Uh, we probably could have done potholes this year, just by the way it sounds. Uh, I went out there and poked around a little bit, but didn't really see much. The ice was probably good enough this year where you could have went out around the islands. I mean, it had a good cover on it, but just didn't.
Are you using a flasher like a Vexlar or Markham, or what do you for a graph, or what are you using?
No, I just have a Lowrance, just the little, what is it? I don't even remember what
X
it's called.
is it the ice machine? The
Yeah.
X. Oh, that thing's phenomenal.
Yeah. No,
The
it's
X,
great.
is it called? It's the X67 ice machine.
I think so.
Okay, so I took so much flack for using that exact same graph for years from the Vexlar guys, the Markham guys, and that thing worked. If it's the same one you're talking about, it's called the X67 ice machine. It's got a
Is it?
flasher mode in it. It's got your regular down or 2D also, but I used that thing for years.
No,
Battery
mine's
life.
mine's the Elite Four.
Okay, well that's the newer version, I
Yeah.
think. But so you
I,
can. Does it have a flasher on it,
yeah.
like a circle? Right.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got flasher
Nice.
mode. You've got ice mode on it. I mean, I've never had an issue with it.
Right.
Between that and the camera, I
For the
just put
people
the
that
camera
haven't,
down.
for the people that have never ice fished, man, so a flasher. A lot of people out here probably have no clue what I'm talking about, but it's a really straight down narrow beam. Like when you see a mark, that fish is under you. And oh, there's Matt.
What's up, Matt?
Yep. Hey, how's it going?
Good. Good.
It worked. I'm amazed it worked.
Yeah, no, I'm
Yeah.
surprised too.
Now we were just talking about ice fishing.
Uh-huh.
So
I've honestly never been ice fishing. I went when I was a kid with my dad, so that was about the last time I ever done it.
yeah.
Oh, it like I was telling Lonnie, it's tough out here when we got ice because we can take our boats out. So I have all my ice fishing stuff, but I have yet to use it out here because man, if I want to go fishing in January, I don't really feel like drilling holes. I'm gonna load my boat up and head your direction.
Yep, exactly. So,
Yeah, I got to do it, man. If I don't get out and do some ice fishing, it drives me nuts. That's why a couple of years ago I took that trip back to South Dakota to go ice fishing. It was like, you know what?
On potholes, do you ever go out and ice fish the cribs? I gotta think that the crappies are loaded on them in the winter.
Well, they would be if you really you could. That's a long walk. So
Yeah.
we've always talked about taking the quads out there, but you got to be careful because of all the springs. So it's just one of those things where I don't have enough people to go with me, and I don't really want to go by myself.
No,
not doing something like that.
No,
but
no, I've lost. I've known people that have died ice fishing over the years, and it's definitely not something you should be doing by yourself. And out here, when the ice isn't probably more than 6-8 inches, that's a little bit different than when you got 2-3 feet of ice back in the Midwest, where you can feel safe. I mean,
you still got to be careful, but it's like this year up there at Curlew. I mean, it was every bit of 18 inches. And then same thing with Trail Lake. I mean, that was so thick. I've never seen it that thick.
So is that a trout lake or a perch lake or?
No, it's a smallmouth and walleye lake.
Oh, really?
It was the first time I've actually caught walleye in Washington through the ice. As many times as I've tried. I mean, I've been to Soda Lake, Long Lake, all those potholes. I shouldn't say that. I did catch one out of potholes once.
So Curlew, where exactly is Curlew Lake?
Curlew's way up north. It's clear up by Republic. I mean, you basically go through Republic to go through there. So I'm
not that far away from it then.
No, that one's just a perch lake. I mean, you can go up there and catch perch till you're blue in the face.
Okay, I've heard of it. I've heard about the perch up there.
Yeah, it's insane.
Tiger muskie in there too, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, that's where I've got my biggest one out so far.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, we've seen some tanks in there. But I think that's where the state record's from right now.
Yeah, I think so. The guy I work with has that. He's a pipe fitter out at work. So.
Yeah, I think it was like 52 or 53.
Something like that, I think, yeah.
Pike?
Yeah. Tiger muskie.
Tiger muskie, yeah. So they can't they can't reproduce the tigers.
No. Yeah. No. But they were kicking the ass to catch. It's
Lake Roosevelt, they're worried, they're so worried about northern pike, getting out of Lake Roosevelt. Man, I don't get that fear because there are pike in every Midwest lake.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Comes back to the silver.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If it ain't got silver on it, they don't want it.
Yep.
So
you're correct.
Unfortunately. I mean, there's, like you said, you go back to the Midwest. I mean, they have lakes that have salmon, trout, pike, walleye, muskie. They all live together.
Right.
And they thrive. So I don't know.
And sometimes they need to manage every specific body of water out there, because maybe there's an overabundance of small northern pike, so they want them out of there.
Right.
And so they might have to balance some of the lakes out, but for the most part, man, those fish are gonna live together, and obviously they are gonna eat each other, to a degree, but there's a natural balance in there too. So I don't understand the fear, but you're right. It's all about the salmon, unfortunately. So they don't want them to get through. And I don't know if there's been one verified. I actually keep thinking I'm going to be the first one to catch one on Rufus Woods, because I know that fish go through there because I've caught walleye that were tagged in Rufus Woods out of San Boyle. So fish go through there. So I can guarantee you there are northern pike somewhere
Oh yeah.
downriver of the Grand Coulee Dam.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you for a fact that there's tiger muskies in Moses Lake.
Wow. Really?
Oh yeah.
You've caught one then, apparently.
I haven't caught them, but I can tell you that they were accidentally released from the hatchery in there.
What?
I used to work at the hatchery out here in Moses, and we were raising tiger muskies. And when you're cleaning the screens, there's just, it's inevitable that you're going to get one or two that pop over the screen.
Right.
And where does that go? Goes right into Crab Creek, goes into Moses Lake. So
he probably lived a long, happy life out there.
Yeah. Anyway, so we should introduce Matt Brown, the winner of Umatilla this year. So congrats on that. I haven't had a chance to tell you that.
No,
Tri-Cities. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Yeah.
But by the way, he took my title away from the year before.
That's right.
I think it was the year before. Yeah. So that tournament's tough for anybody to beat some of the locals. Man, Jesse Lamb and Lewis Nesbitt and all of his buddies. I think Jesse and his crew have won it pretty much every year except for myself and Matt in the last few years.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I think it was 2 years prior to this year when you guys won. Because that was the same year I actually zeroed in that tournament when you guys won. We never touched a fish all day.
It's crazy how that works. Well, I had a good reason for that one. I had a broken ankle, so I got to pre-fish for 5 days. Right, yeah.
I remember you being in a cast during that one.
And I didn't hardly fish at all. Honestly, yeah. I drug my camera around constantly, and I'll just say this: I did not find fish in many spots. And when I found them, I'd mark them, and I didn't fish for them, and it paid off. Just finding them and not fishing for them. If you can handle that, it's tough to look at a big fish and not cast at it. But we caught all of our fish that year casting, except for we did get one crankfish right at the end.
Yep.
But we had casting spots where we found fish and did not harass them. Mm-hmm. And pretty much every spot paid off on the first couple casts. They were still there. So
that's usually what it seems like too. So.
Yeah, what was your strategy this year?
Basically same thing. Almost all our fish were cast. Well, I guess all our fish were casting. But I was up there fishing Tri-City since December, and was watching a lot of the water flow, and I knew where the fish would pattern compared to the current and all that stuff. The current, but we caught fish out in 25 feet, and we caught fish all the way up in 4 foot of water in that tournament.
Nice.
So it was a little different, but it was all plastics. It was all cast in plastics.
Excellent. So, what do you think the biggest hurdle or frustration is on that stretch of the river?
The biggest that time of year is when they change the current. They change the current daily, and you'll see the fish change daily or hourly to the current flows. You'll watch. So basically, when I'm fishing up there that time of year, I rely on that flow. I watch the flow charts, and I know where I'm going to fish by just looking at a flow chart. And they mess with the current a lot, and that fishery's tough that time of year. The water's clear, the water's cold. You really got to fish those fish up there that time of year when the water's clear like that, cold like that. So it's a pretty hard place to fish. I mean, that's the time of year a lot of guys are out there. They want to go fish during the day. They just go pull cranks during the night because they can't catch fish during the day. And it's definitely a little bit of a pattern up there you got to put together.
Sure. So, I mean, without giving away any secrets or spots or anything like that, what is it you're looking for as far as current flow?
So, as far as what I look for, anything over that 100 mark makes it pretty good. Downriver, anything less than 100, I usually stick upriver, up above Blue Bridge, I'd say, up in town. Anything below that, Boise area. I mean, anything above that 100 CFS mark, I go down to Boise. What I mainly look for is your current breaks. Any kind of areas where it looks like they're going to stage a spawn. They kind of by gravel bar, stuff like that. any points along adjacent drops, pretty good drops with gravel beds up shallow. Is mainly what I look for fishing up there. And you'll notice those fish kind of stage. They got staging areas. You'll find them off those deeper points, and you'll see a lot of them laying in silt. You know, I look for a lot of silty areas too that time of year. And
so are you just going through those areas doing a side scan and
yes, I do a lot of dropping up there. Yeah. And I really won't set up on a group of fish unless I see them on my side scanner on the 360. So
gotcha.
The graphing does play a lot with it.
You're not running a 360, are you, Chad? You just have the Garmin Live Scope, right? Or do you have a 360?
Dan has one, and we threw it on my boat, but we weren't fishing shallow enough to use the 360. We did use it, but we were fishing in that tournament that Matt won this year. We were fishing more in the 20-foot and even deeper. Matter of fact, we could not get any fish going casting. I don't think we caught one in the tournament. And like with 2 hours left on day one, I don't think we had a fish. And we, for whatever, Matt's probably right. It's flow related. So where we were fishing, they weren't fired up to hit plastics, apparently, maybe. And so guess what? We dropped down some crawlers, and we had like a 20-pound day, I think 18 pounds in the last 2 hours on day one. And then I think we had the second best bag on day two pulling crawlers, because our fish, I'm assuming because of the low flow, I don't know, who knows, but they would not hit plastics for us. And, but they hit crawlers. So that, and I'm thinking maybe that was flow related. Maybe Matt was in more flow than we were, probably,
Yeah. Yeah. And then on top of it, when I'm fishing those pitching bites like that up there, I'm fishing for 8-10 bites a day. So, if you like the first day, we didn't have our last under until like 1 o'clock, and we were calling overs. But it's at that you take a risk of not winning a limit each day. And the second day, the fish just came right. But it is a tough deal. I mean, the pitching deal is a tough deal. You're literally that tournament. I was hoping for 8-10 bites a day, and that's what we caught. I think we caught 10 fish with days. So you just got to grind it out.
Right,
my deal. If I don't see them on that graph, I won't even stay in the spot.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I've never really used a 360. We've talked about maybe doing something with it, but I've watched a lot of videos on it, and it seems like a great tool.
Yes.
But
no, I love mine. I mean, what really makes it nice if you're fishing like weed lines or you're looking for gravel where it ends, or gravel bars, stuff like that. I can fish it more efficiently. I can fish the edge of my weeds. I can stay on stuff like that. I'm not just kind of wanderlessly fishing. I see exactly where my weed lines are, my gravel beds are, all that stuff. So I mean, the 360 that's a big advantage to it. It's not live like your active target, your Garmin, but it does move fast enough where I can see pods of fish moving on the screen. You'll see them move in increments every time it comes around. So it does help.
Is that pretty much a stationary tool? I mean, you need to be anchored up, or?
No, it works good when I drift, because a lot of times I'll kind of fall back. I go with the current, kind of hold myself steady, but I drift back and I can scan everything while I'm fishing. So it works good when you're moving, and it works. I've never used it for trolling, but if you're casting or cruising along shorelines and stuff, you can use it to your advantage doing that. So it's clear when you're moving too.
So do you think the 360 or the live is better for application?
They both have their time and place. Both are great tools. Like I said, the advantage of what I like the 360 is basically if you're fishing the weed lines, it keeps you on the spot. You don't per se see what the fish are doing. You can't see how they react. Where active target or pan optics, you can see if those fish are reacting. That's what's nice about that. You don't see that with the 360, but it does keep you on whatever you're trying to stay on. So.
Gotcha.
And I can attest that he knows how to use that. I'm going to tell a quick little story from Umatilla. So it might have been your last fish, Matt.
I think it was our first over.
So we plucked a 10.5 pounder out of exactly where you were casting. That's why you probably said, hey, I said to him, so Matt and I were the only ones there, and this is day two. And I said, hey, do you mind if I go around you? Because he sat right on where we just caught a 10.5 pounder. So he pulled right up to it, And I think it was probably on his first cast because we were actually backing up so we could make another crank run. And by the time we turned around, I saw them netting a fish. I'm like, God dang it.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see him in there on the 362. There's a little dip, and that's one of those spots like fish, and you'll see him sit behind that dip in the current. And we sat
Well,
there and we kept running on it.
we took one of them from you.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's funny. I didn't know you guys got one that first pass too when we ran in there. So.
Oh yeah, well, we did. It was our
Yeah,
best
no,
fish.
that's funny. Can I go around you? I'm like, oh, yeah, go for it.
That's why I asked him, and that's a good, I was
Yeah,
polite with him. That's
how you try to do it.
if I just would have kept my head down and not said anything to him, that's awkward. But I said, hey, do you mind if I just go around you? And usually just asking somebody is all it takes.
Oh yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah.
So would you say that, speaking of Umatilla, would you say that the Umatilla stretch and the Tri-Cities stretch fish similar, or are they completely different?
Well,
I'd say they're similar. I'd say that
a little
bit different.
Just because the water temp's a little bit warmer, then that crankbite usually starts kicking on. That's the biggest deal. Once that water temp gets up there, that crankbite turns on, and then it becomes either a pitching game or a cranking game, in my opinion. So I'm kind of 50-50 on what I want to do in that tournament. But that's just kind of what I've noticed. And the fish are more active. Like where I was fishing plastics at Tri-Cities, I was really finessing them. Where I was in Umatilla, I could damn near fish them like a blade bait or just ripping them, and the fish were pounding it. So it seemed, that's a tough one for me. That one, it could be one pulling cranks, it could be one casting. It kind of goes back and forth year to year. Where it seems like predominantly Tri-Cities is a finesse casting type of deal anymore.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. It's tough to catch crankfish at the Tri-Cities tournament in February during the day. It can happen, and I mean the fish can, things can change and turn on, but for the most part, the crankbite in mid-February daytime, it's tough.
Yep.
Nighttime is a different world.
It's on fire.
And I think that I hope that most of the people that have gotten onto that have realized that it doesn't take much effort, skill, whatever you want to call it, to go out at night and catch big fish. But you better be putting them back, because if you want to catch those fish the following year, and I'll probably tell this story multiple times, but if I can promise you that they're like big deer. They go right back to that same spot, because there's one fish on Rufus Woods that myself and Dan have caught 3 times over 6-7 years off the exact same spot, and we watched it go from 12 to 15 to 17 and a half pounds. It's the same fish.
No, we've seen that this year. So caught a fish. Same deal.
Yep. So why wouldn't you throw a 14-pound fish back and think, okay, what's the water temp? What's the time of the year? I'm going to be here next year, because that fish is going to be there. If it's alive, it's going to be there.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. It seems like those bigger fish like that, they go back to the same spawning areas and go back to the same areas every year. I've noticed that I caught multiple fish the same deal year after year, within 100 yards where I caught them the year before.
Yep. And if people don't believe it's the same fish, trust me, guys that fish enough, like Matt and myself, and take pictures, we can tell. Every fish has a thumbprint, and a lot of them have markings that you can, verify from a couple years later, or scars. It's not that hard with today's cell phones to verify that that's the same fish.
Yep. Exactly. So what'd you think of that Moses tournament, Matt?
That was a little tough. Pre-fishing was good, but it kind of got tough on us during the tournament. Everything that we kind of figured out during pre-fish didn't really work out, so we just kind of started shooting from the hip. It seems like the fish kind of laid down on us that we were on. That was definitely a grind. I think we caught, what did we catch? 3 fish on day 1 and 2 fish on day 2.
Yeah, we had 4 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. Made for a long Sunday too, because we got that first one like right off the bat, and the rest of the time it was just, it was rough.
I heard that about a week after it was on fire out there.
Yep.
It seemed like well, I don't know about Tri-Cities, Umatilla, and all that, but it just seems like everything is a week and a half, 2 weeks behind.
That's what it seems like.
It's rare that we hit a body of water when the bite's on.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, if that was I'm guessing that was kind of the idea as far as switching the tournaments around a little bit to try and get the hot bite. And normally it would have been.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I would take, and I didn't fish it because I was in South Dakota, but I will take a earlier tournament on potholes or Moses because of the heat factor. And I'm fat and I'm old and I don't want to be out there when it's 100 degrees. So the earlier we push these lake tournaments back, that's good. And then, river tournaments, in the summer are more tolerable, I guess. Yeah. But man, I don't like going to Moses.
Kettle Falls was brutal last year.
Yeah, Kettle can be yeah, you're right. It can be.
115, I think, both days. I mean, it was just rough.
Yeah, that's miserable.
No, you're right. It can be brutal out there. When you're dipping your hat in the water by 8:30, you're like, oh boy, this is gonna be a.
Dude, I was dipping my whole body by 8:30.
Well, hopefully this year we keep her in the, early or low 90s at the worst.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Banks Lake might be a little warm this year.
Yeah, well, hopefully if these weather patterns stay the way they are, I mean.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm loving this so far.
We're still looking, mid-60s through next weekend.
Yep.
Keep it up. Don't. Yeah.
I mean, we're finally getting runoff down here on the river. First time I've seen the dam with spills and everything open like this week. So it's really late for runoff.
Yeah, no, I went by Wenatchee all the way down to Mattawa today, and they were humping it. So
yeah, McNary down here has been cranking like this last week. Finally. So.
Yeah. So what's the thoughts on potholes, Matt? You gonna be there?
Yeah, I think so. Kind of up in the air on it. I'm sure I'll be there, but pothole, that's going to be, that one might be different too. The water level's damn near full. That's highest has been when we were there. So I don't know what to expect there. I think fish could be way back in the dune, still in the weeds, or they might be out in the main lake. I don't know. Potholes is probably my least favorite lake out of this whole country to fish. So.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yep. I've been humbled by that lake every time I've been there almost. So. It seems like anytime you put something together, it falls apart the next day, or the fish move for no reason. So it's like fishing 1,000 lakes at one. It seems like you never know. Yeah. They got no reason. They could move the next bay over, or move 2 bays over. So, but no, I'll be up there. Give her hell.
Good.
See what happens.
Yeah. Well, with the water being high like that, I mean, you're right. There's so much area back there to be able to recover.
Yeah.
And we've fished it before when it's been pretty high, and there's certain areas that hold fish. I'm not going to say that I know where they're going to be, but I'm knocking on wood that they're going to be where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
They won't be, but it's worth a try.
They'll be there Friday.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, that's usually what happens to me. They'll be there Friday and nowhere found until Sunday. He's like, every time I'm there, someone that just goes along casting over some weeds or runs into a big old pot of big fish.
Yeah, speaking of which, too, Chad, I checked that out from what we were talking about last time about who won it last year, and it was Dave.
Yep. Dave's won the last 3 tournaments he's fished. There's not enough people talking about that.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I don't think he fished any other because he won both Moses and potholes last year, and he won Moses this year. Man, we got to take him down.
Oh, he's going to be up there.
No more, Dave. He's not going to watch this, but no more. We got to. Somebody has to take Dave Harrell and his partner. His partner. I think he's only fished 3 walleye tournaments in his life.
And he won them all?
3. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty good.
That is not fair. That is not fair. No.
Well, it's like I was talking before, man. I mean, I've been doing this since what, 92, 93. I haven't won one yet. So either I'm doing something wrong or I just got really shitty luck.
Well, speaking, I'll say this: once you get one, like I know Matt has had a lot of top tens, like in the last 5 years since I've been out here. But I think this was his first win. Correct me if I'm wrong out here.
No, you're correct.
But
That's first in a real tournament, I guess. Yeah.
he's always right there, 5th place, 6th place, 3rd place. So, and I'm sure that's good. I'm sure that's got to get that. I mean, it's frustrating, but once you get that first one now, man, he's just going to, the pressure's off now. He's got that win. And, it definitely seems like it's easier. I'm just speaking from my personal luck. Once I got one, it was like, all right, I finally, cause I choked in a lot of them, and it's almost like you have to earn your stripes and you have to have a day one lead and then just choke, and it's not fun, but, and it'll pain you, but eventually you'll get past that. And once you get past that, then it's all good after that. They come a lot easier, it seems like. So
it's just after that, it seems like.
what Matt needs, or one of us from Washington State, we need to go get an NWT win. Yeah, one of us is going to get it. Matt had a top. Well, you talk about it. You had at least one top 10 last year, didn't you?
Last year, what I was in 12th at Mobridge on day one. I think I was in like 18th on Erie at day one, and I ended up finishing 16th in Green Bay. But yeah, most of the time I do pretty good. And second day, something that never comes together. Second day, I guess. So I've had that happen a lot.
You getting back there this year?
No, not this year. Just too busy at work. I was gonna try to fish Chamberlain. It just didn't work out. And then with everything, with fuel price and everything, it's just not really feasible for me this year. Yeah. The fact, worked out really good last year. We were pretty slow, so I could take the time off. And this year, I just too busy at work. So, I'll be back to another one. It'll probably be a cherry picker. Wait for something close to come by, like Chamberlain. See what the schedule is next year, and try to do at least one next year.
Yeah, Chamberlain was fun. The weather was horrible, but I'll definitely go back if they throw Chamberlain or Mobridge, which is the section above Chamberlain.
Yeah, there's a lot bigger fish there. That one's fun.
And if North Dakota would quit being, so greedy and open it up, Devil's Lake and Sakakawea.
Devil's Lake was fun. I like that one.
Devil's Lake and Sakakawea were blast.
I think it was a championship 2019. I ended up finishing 13th at Devil's Lake. That was one of my favorite ones. I think I was in 6th on day one and then ended up 13th. 3 ounces out of the top 10 for the championship. So that was kind of a bummer. 3 ounces out of making the cut.
Yeah.
And Devil's Lake is actually rising again, by the way.
Is it rising again? Wow, I heard everything's really low. So
it's going back. It's going back up, which is a good thing. So I grew up there. I actually was born in Devil's Lake. We left the farm in York, North Dakota when I was about 15. And right when we left, which was in the mid 80s, that's when the lake rose. And so I missed out on all of the fun. Like a lot of the roads that my cousin and I used to ride bikes on and you could catch walleyes off of in the mid 90s. Yeah. Right off of the bridges off the side of the road. So I missed out on all the good stuff. But the other day I was looking into it, and the water is going back up again. I don't know if it's just this year or what exactly is going on, but flooded lakes are fun.
Yeah. Talking to the guys that got me into that stuff back there, all the stories they had when that thing was flooded, all the roads and stuff, down farm roads and stuff, fishing down the trees and all that stuff. Sounded like it'd been a good time. I never got to see it. It was pretty much, we'd get the chips. You could see all the farmhouses, all the roads. That's where we're fishing, but it wasn't much left, when I was there.
Yep.
So that kind of brings another point, Chad, with being from the Midwest like that. And, Matt, you can chime in on this too. I was just watching a video yesterday, I think, and they were talking about the walleye opener and everything. And, what's your thoughts on that as far as having that time where it's closed and then they have an opener for the walleye?
It never bothered me because I crappie fished and bluegill fished all winter. And if I wanted to go walleye fishing, I just drove up to Winnipeg. So it didn't bother me at all, really. And you're obviously going to catch a few walleye here and there when you're crappie fishing. I mean, I used to crappie fish with big jigging spoons. I didn't play around with little plastics. And you know, obviously you're not keeping anything, but you know, it didn't bother me that the season was closed. It actually tells me that they actually care about the fishery.
Yep. That's what it
So
seems like. That's the main reason they do it. Is they dump the money into their walleye fishery like they do the salmon fishery here. You know, they stock everything. Right. They have seasons. They have limits. So that's how they protect their fisheries. Like they try to protect the salmon fishery here.
Right. Do you think it would be beneficial to have something like that here?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, first off, they need to have some limits.
Back on the river.
Let's start with that. But
yeah,
they don't put any logic into that. And if you try to put any facts like the Zimmerman report, and there's guys that are very well educated on surveys that have been done over the years, and this is a big, you know, I didn't even want to get into it because a lot of guys are so frustrated because you can show them facts and surveys that have been done that go against what taking a regulation or a limit off of the walleye. You know, the logic doesn't make any sense because walleye eat pike minnow eat smolt. Why would you take a limit off of walleye? They're naturally going to reduce your pike minnow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the strange thing too is, you know, when was it? Probably 2000. Well, it was earlier than that. Let's say 1998 through, I don't know, let's say 2006, 2007. And I know they still have a form of it, but they had a warm water program here in the state. You know, we went back to Nebraska to pick up channel catfish. You know, we would raise the tiger muskies. We would raise, you know, other warm water species. I mean, we would go down to, take it back. We went to Nebraska to get crappie. We went down to California to get the channel cats. You know, and so they were trying to do something with the warm water, but then, you know, it just seems like it's just went away. It's like they don't care anymore.
It's all about saving the salmon.
Yeah. And it's extremely frustrating because, I mean, all of us can probably attest that we have seen the popularity of walleye fishing over the last 5 years blow up. So why can't they understand that and say, look, we have a natural resource that we don't have to put a penny into, that people are driving from the Midwest to come out here and fish with our guides. They're coming out here to fish. Why wouldn't we want to protect that and advertise it and say, but they have no idea that the biggest walleye in the world are right here. Yeah, Erie's better overall. You can go catch 10-pound fish, but there is no place better on the earth for big fish than Washington State. And you don't promote it.
And then if they broke it down, the revenue that is generating, how many people are coming and staying just in Tri-Cities in the wintertime anymore. You see guys from all over the Midwest staying at Clover Island, guys flying in, but like Chad said, booking guides. I mean, the revenue's got to be huge. What's going on this river anymore? And, you know, it's getting tough. I mean, I'm not getting tough, but you definitely see a decline in the fish, of these big fish over the last 5 or 10 years too. I've noticed myself, you know, the days of getting that 33, 34, 35 incher has been pretty tough anymore, you know, compared to what it used to be. I got one fish in the boat.
We were talking about last week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's not just the river. I mean, that's even the way out here on Moses. I mean, it used to be you would go out and you couldn't catch small fish. Everything it seemed like it was 5 to 8 pounds.
Yep.
You know,
I can remember being a kid fishing Moses with my dad, and I think big fish would be like 9 or 10 or 11 pounds sometimes. You had to have a 10-pound fish in Moses Lake to have big fish in that tournament. You know.
Yeah.
I can remember those days.
You know, and the crazy thing, 5-6 years ago, you know, and it's not walleye, but it's still a spiny ray. So they went through and they killed the Sun Lakes again.
Mm-hmm.
And I went over there and took pictures of, I mean, thousands of big perch that were, you know, lined the shoreline. And, you know, what kills me is, okay, so they're, like you were talking, Chad, that is a natural producing resource. They don't have to do anything with it. You know, So they go in and they kill it off to plant the rainbows back in. Where you've got people that, okay, so you have a season opener and you'll have that place packed for a weekend, maybe 2, but then drive by there in the summertime and see how many people are fishing it. There's nobody, and then they cut it off in the wintertime so you can't fish it during the wintertime. If they would have left that as a perch lake and kept those in there, and even if they would have changed the regulations so you could keep 25, okay, fine. You can control the population. But if they would have left that open year round, I mean, we're talking about ice fishing. I mean, that's right down here. I mean, you could go out there and catch perch, nice 12, 13-inch perch through the ice. But instead, and that's going to boost the revenue for everybody in the area.
Mm-hmm.
It's mind-boggling to me. Don't even go kill it off. Ask for volunteers to go in there and shock the lake and take those fish out of there and put it somewhere else. But
Exactly.
you're destroying that resource. And you talk about waste. I mean, that's just, it drives me absolutely insane.
Yeah, it doesn't cost them a penny. They don't need to put any effort into it. Those fish are naturally doing nature's work, spawning successfully. And we've seen the tides turn where a lot of the salmon guides are now walleye guides, and I think we are seeing a trend of because salmon guys kill everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they have that mentality, and they can hate me. It doesn't bother me, but that's their mentality. Salmon fishing, they kill everything. So, and there still are guys that feel that way about walleye, but you have to realize that you go back to the Midwest and these states put millions of dollars into stocking walleye, millions of dollars, and Washington puts none. So it's up to us to have some restraint and keep that fishery going, because it's obvious that the state of Washington and the state of Oregon and Idaho don't care. So it's up to us to care, period. Because they are not going to change their ways. But we don't have to listen to them. Obviously we have to abide by laws, but we don't have to keep every 10-pound fish because, hey, there's no limit. They want them out of here. Don't think that way, man. It's a fishery that is self-sustaining, but we have to, as anglers, understand that we have to be the reason. We have to play our part in releasing some of these fish to keep it going, because the state's not putting a penny into it. And millions of dollars, I don't know a number, but every state in the Midwest spends millions of dollars stocking lakes with walleyes.
They got hatcheries for their walleyes like we do our salmon. I mean, it's a big deal. You go anywhere else in the Midwest.
Yeah. And again, we're talking about your natural reproducing resource. And where we were talking about the perch fishing up on Curlew, if you were to call up there to Republic and tell them or ask them, say, hey, how is your revenue over the course of this wintertime? Because you would have to call up 2 weeks ahead of time to try and get a hotel room if you wanted to stay overnight, because there were so many people up there ice fishing, and again, that's one lake that they haven't touched. They're not huge perch, but people love to go out and do that. It's a spiny ray fish. I mean, who doesn't love to eat perch?
Yeah.
And I was trying to find those pictures. I was going to put them on here so people could see it, but it just, like I said, it made me sick, because when I was working for the hatchery, we actually went up to Whitestone and we would shock bass and take the smaller bass out of there, and we would go plant them in other lakes. But that was on a volunteer basis. I just don't understand why they don't do that with some of these other lakes. If they're going to kill them off, ask for volunteers, go get the fish out of there, put them in Moses Lake. I mean, look at the decline in perch in Moses Lake. It used to be, and we've had a decline in that.
So when I first moved here, 2013, Sprague Lake was getting killed off. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And I remember a lot of, this is back when Northwest Walleye was our, I'm assuming Matt was part of it, because everybody was kind of part of NorthwestWalleye.com before Facebook kind of ruled the world. And I remember a lot of talk about they're going to rotone or whatever they call it, Sprague Lake, and everybody's like, why would you not net these fish or shock them and move them to Banks Lake or wherever? Why are you, and then there were the guys that said, why would you even do this? The fishing is great out there. But from what I heard, it was weedy and tough to fish, but weedy means a lot of fish, a lot of big fish. So just because it's not easy to fish doesn't, and now I don't know what's going on there. I have no clue. I haven't heard nothing about Sprague Lake since.
Well, and that was one of the lakes that we put the channel cats in, not 10 years prior to that.
Yeah, no, they believe they killed it to put all trout in there. That's what they did. They put catfish.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, we dump thousands of dollars of putting catfish in that, and they go kill it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, tell me the logic in that.
That's the government for you.
Yeah. Speaking of weeds too, it seems like that's another decline in Moses Lake. That's why that lake's getting so tough. They started poisoning all the weeds off in that lake, and there ain't no more weed lines or anything, and that's a big old soup bowl.
Weeds are good for lakes. Yeah, weeds are, some of the nastiest milfoil, like Lake Minnetonka. It's full of milfoil. Yeah, it's tough to fish, and you're not going to have fun taking your jet skis out. But the fish love it, man. The bait love it. They have a place to hang out and avoid these predators. You have to adapt as a fisherman and fish that style. It's the fishing is great. You can't do what you're used to doing.
Yeah. Well, in Moses this year, again, it was just a different animal because things were later. While the water temps were low, we didn't have weed growth. Where it's usually in June, I think we would have seen more weeds. But, I hear exactly what you're saying, Matt. I mean, they've been doing that for a while, trying to get those out of there. You got a lot of the homeowners complaining because they can't get their ski boats in because of the weeds. So,
yeah, that's just how I used to fish that lake. Just go patrol weed lines and stuff. And anymore, if you find you find a patch of weeds, you found your little honey hole. So.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So what's your guys's I know you had said you're pitching plastics down there in the river. So if you were given only a crankbait or a plastic to fish that stretch of the river, what are you taking?
Oh, that's a tough one. It really depends on what time of year or this.
I'm going to let you pick the time of year, and you just tell me what you're going to use.
Man, that's a tough one. That's, if it was muddy, I'd be pulling cranks. If it was clear, I'd be throwing plastics. There's a lot that plays into it in my eyes,
Oh, sure.
For that time of year, though, if it was the right conditions, I'd say plastic, just because of water temps. But if it was warmer, muddy, I'd be pulling cranks. So that's a tough one.
That's why I asked.
That's a really tough one.
Hold your feet to the fire.
I'll tell you exactly what I would do. And I'll say this: the year that we won, I was pulling, or I wasn't pulling. We were casting the oldest trick in the book, 5-inch grubs, no bait, no paint on the jigs. Didn't matter. Wasn't a paddle tail, just 5-inch grubs. And the reason I do that is because of a guy named Kimo Gabriel. Probably 10 years ago, before I knew who Kimo was, I was out on Rufus Woods, and this boat came up to me and asked me, do I have any grubs? And I'm like, what the fuck, am I ice fishing for panfish? Why would I have grubs with me? Because to me, a grub is a waxworm in my world, coming from Minnesota. So I'm like, do you mean twister tail? And it turned out to be Kimo. And I said, yeah. So I gave him a pack of twister tails. And this is on Rufus. And he probably went out and plucked a couple 10-pounders knowing that guy. And after a few years went by and I realized who he was, I'm like, I should probably start casting twister tails. And I know a lot of guys are into the paddle tails. I'm 100% twister tail.
Kalen's,
Absolutely. That's my confidence bait.
Is it really?
Crankbaits don't matter to me.
No.
It doesn't matter to me. It does not. I don't care what you're pulling. They're going to eat it if you put it in their face.
Yeah. I will give crankbaits the biggest one thing about cranks. As far as my biggest fish I ever caught, those fish over 33 inches, they all have been crankbait fish. And I have caught a lot of fish on plastics. I mean, even this year alone, I probably caught 50, 80 fish over 30 inches on plastics, but I never broke 32, 33 inches. I've never caught a fish over 33 on a plastic. As far as my big fish I've caught in my lifetime have been crankbaits. That's the one thing I will say.
That's a good
saltwater ones.
That's a good question.
I throw some big plastics, so I'll throw some 8-inch plastics and stuff. You'd be surprised if I throw. So, I've never broke that 32.5-inch mark on a plastic. But as far as my the biggest fish of my life, they've all been big cranks. You know.
What about jigging wraps? Have you had a big fish on jig wraps?
I haven't caught too big a fish on them. Most of the time, I do jigging wraps back east. You know, I haven't messed around with them too much on the river. I've caught my biggest fish out here on jig wraps. Not I mean, compared to plastics. Yeah.
You know, plastics, I've caught a lot of nice fish, like Matt said, but I don't remember any 15 pluses. Those have all came. I've got a couple that have been vertical on jig wraps.
Yep.
And one of them specifically on live scope where I wish I had it recorded because this fish kept coming out of the rocks and looking at me. And when I saw the gills flare and it ate, it was almost like I locked up and I'm like, oh my God, did I just see that? And it was a 33.5 incher. But my best fish have come on crankbaits. And my best one did not come at night. So that's a bonus.
My two best have never came at night. They both came in the
there you
summertime,
go. There's a good question for you. What's your best so far out here?
Far as I got one in July that was just under, it was 35 and 7/8, just under 36 inches, and it was 17.5 pounds. Damn. And that was in July.
That's a toad.
So, yeah. And then I got one a couple years later that was 34 in like June, July. That one was 16. But both those fish, yeah, they were both summertime fish.
Yeah, that's huge.
Imagine
the biggest tournament fish since I've been out here was Ross Kerrigan. He caught one in, I think it was a summer tournament in the Tri-Cities, and it was over 17.
Yeah, it was like 18, I think, wasn't it? I think it was an August tournament or something, wasn't it?
Wasn't 18.
It was 17, almost 17.8 or something like that. I remember
17
that.
Something.
Yeah.
And
that's a big fish.
You know, man, that's for a summer tournament. Yeah, that's a stud. That's top of the pyramid, big fish.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I said. You imagine that fish in February?
Yeah.
State record, yeah, more than likely. You know, depending on its attitude and its age, probably a state record. Yeah.
Yep.
Man, that's crazy. So so here's the next thing. So you said plastics. So is it more color or is it more profile?
Well, see, that's another thing. So color, I'll basically pick my color by water clarity. You know, if it's super clear, I try to go natural. If it's dingy, I'll try to throw something bright like white, chartreuse. You know, and then as far as what I really go by on profile, it will be, you know, a little bit, if it's upper 30s, you know, 37, I go a little bit smaller profile. And once I get up around that 43 mark, I'll throw a larger profile. It's kind of the way I look at it. You know, it seems like that cooler water, they want a little bit tighter action, smaller profile, more natural looking stuff. When you got that cooler water, that's when you got that clear water most of the time. But then when it gets kind of dingy, I'll go to a bigger, brighter bait. And then I have messed around and throw some big 7, 8-inch, big old largemouth swim baits and caught fish on them. So,
yeah. So I was looking in my bag. I've got some of those 11 and 12-inch curly tails for pike.
I'll put some
of those on.
I wouldn't doubt they work. So I've caught fish on the big 8-inch Kitex before. So the big paddle tails.
Did you think to yourself when that fish hit, holy shit, it actually worked?
Oh, yeah, I thought it was it. I was like, oh, this is the one. out there night fishing with Marco, with my buddies, and it hit. I'm like, oh, I got a big one. It ended up being like an 18-inch fish on an 8-inch paddle tail.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's awesome. What about you,
Yeah.
Chad?
What was the question?
The color or profile?
Color, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No. Confidence.
I'll just throw you a bag and you just.
No, it really doesn't matter to me. Confidence in what you're throwing is absolutely 100% what matters.
Okay, so I'm going to hold you to that, because when I see you this weekend, I'm going to give you a package of plastics and you're going to have to throw it and tell me you have confidence in it.
I don't know. So like
I do
Matt was
agree,
saying,
confidence does help a lot with it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, confidence is key, man. But
I got my go-tos that I can throw on there, and I'll always catch fish on them. And
yeah, I don't care about color. I really don't care about color. Like when I'm locked in and I feel like I know this bite, it's all about there's a fish looking at me right now, and I'm just waiting for the pop. I mean, it 100%. And my tournament partner Dan, so he has suddenly became really good at casting. Like for the first couple of years, he hated it. And it was tough for me because I love it, but he hated it. And he finally kind of locked in on it. And there's no question, if you can get on a casting bite on them early spring tournaments, they will crush everybody, but you're not going to catch many fish. And I can't really explain that, but confidence, once he got confident in that casting bite, it was like suddenly, and then he would start beating me and he'd be like, yeah, ha, ha, ha. I'm like, let's calm down here. But he put a nice run on me this spring where he was whooping my butt, and I'm happy. Good job. Congratulations. Yeah. Because it's all about confidence. If you're standing there casting thinking this fish will not hit this, probably not going to happen. But when you have confidence in whatever it is you're throwing, I've seen where color seems to matter, but I really cannot subscribe to that theory at all. The fish are not that smart. I really don't think that is the determining factor.
Well said.
Yeah. Because I agree with you. I got my go-to colors, and I'll use them pretty much anywhere in the country and still catch fish on them.
Right.
I wouldn't say really. You talk to the next guy doing the same thing, and his favorite color is totally different than you, and he's doing just as good as you. So,
like you could ask Chemo, like, what color do you hate, and give it to him like hot pink, and he'll just start crushing fish. It doesn't matter. Like I've caught some fish on the most stupid looking lures, the stupidest colors, like, and I've seen that change through the years where I thought you had to throw the most natural looking stuff, and then I find myself throwing pink and yellow, pink and green, and they slaughter it. So I really don't think color is the factor. I think it's more about getting confidence in the tactic you're using. And color is just a very small percentage of the equation, I think.
Well, that's why I ask you about the profile, because granted, confidence in anything is going to be, that's going to boost you, the way you learn how to use it, the way you learn how to implement it. But the profile, for me, I think is more important than what it is the color.
I have definitely found the profile. Like this year, when our water temp, I was crushing fish in December on bigger baits, and when the water cooled down, they would not touch that bigger 5-inch bait. They wouldn't touch a 4-inch bait. And my buddy threw on little 3-inch baits, and he was catching fish after fish. So I will say that profile, I think, does play more than color. And then as soon as that water temp warmed back up, he wouldn't catch fish on baits he was throwing, and my bigger baits started working again. Yeah. So I have seen that firsthand. I will say profile, but it's definitely more than color. Cadence, it's more than, that's another thing too. Your cadence, it will vary. I've learned too, the way you fish those baits.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, how you implement it. You
got to know when to slow it down, and you got to know when to speed it up. That's another thing I've learned.
And it's good to have two different partners throwing different styles too, because one guy might figure out, hey, just slow roll it. Another guy might be hopping it, and then like, why the hell is that working? Okay, let me do it.
Yep, exactly. And that's we'll see that a lot fishing together. We fish different, and then whatever starts working, we start mimicking each other and catching more fish.
Sure. And, again, I love plastics too, but I'm going to throw a little love at the hair, because I love throwing hair jigs. So,
I've thrown a lot of hair jigs. And actually, that's how I cashed a check in Green Bay last year, and that was all casting hair jigs.
Was it this guy?
No, they were like a Erie style jig.
Oh,
They were actual marabou, actual hair jig, not a tinsel.
Trevor makes some killer hair jigs. Trevor Johnson over in Montana. And I know Chemo, I mean, he's won more tournaments than anybody out here. And I would probably guess that most of his fish have come on kit stackle jigs. So hair jigs are definitely, and it's a confidence bait too. You got to get confident in it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because again, like any bait you're going to throw, you know, what you do to it is going to implement some sort of action, you know, but if you can get, especially what I've noticed in cooler water temperatures with the hair, slight movements allow that hair to move just a little tiny bit. And it kind of gives it that nice little wave action that they seem to like.
I'll be right back, Lonnie. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. So not too many people out here running Vexus boats.
Yeah, they're kind of just, there's a handful of guys. They're just kind of getting started, it seems like, you know.
Yeah.
They're just kind of making their name. Well, I mean, it's probably the best boat ever owned. I mean, it's second to none. I mean, the ride, the speed, the way they designed the boat. It's the new Ranger. So it's basically once he opened up the factory, they had the 10-year, Johnny Morris bought out Ranger 10 years ago. They had the no comp clause. And when that ended, Forrest Little opened up Vexus and hired all his Ranger engineers, everything back, and they built this boat. So it's a new design. It's all the Ranger engineers and everything. So.
Yeah. Are you running a 21 or 22?
I got the 22.
22. I know you went by us at Moses Lake like we were standing still. So.
Yeah, no, that thing flies. I mean, I think I was getting like 67 out of it on Moses Lake.
Yeah. Yeah, I just waved. See you.
Yeah, yeah. But no, the ride. I mean, I've owned a few Triton's and a few other boats, and the ride of this boat and the speed it's second to none. It's very impressive. Very impressive boat.
Now, what about the setup as far as the boat goes itself? I mean, is the fishability of it? I mean, I've never really been able to look at one.
Yep. I mean, for me, I got that bow's huge. You could fit. We actually fished a little tournament in December, and it was 4 of us in the boat, and we never got in each other's way. 4 of us casting in December. I mean, the layout of this thing, it's just gigantic. And then as you're trolling, you got all the room in the back. They got a nice little platform, the way they extended the tackle and stuff by the live well for another casting platform back there. It's a well-designed boat. I mean, like I said, it surprised me. It's the best boat I've ever owned by far.
Now, what did you have before? Did you have Rangers?
I had a 216 Triton, a 206 Triton, and then I had a run before that.
Okay. Yeah, I know, like with Chad, he's running the Pro V.
Those are good boats. I used to have a 2025 Pro V and older Pro V. They're awesome boats too.
So what would you say the difference between the glass and the aluminum? Is it just ride? Is it?
I will give it the ride. Definitely the ride.
I need to take Matt for a ride in this boat because I went from a tiller that rode like trash compared to this boat. But there is no doubt. I've been in plenty of other, like Dan has a Warrior boat, a tiller boat, and man, that thing cuts through nasty stuff like nothing. Every boat has its highlight, you know, but this boat I'm in now, man, it compared to the other aluminum boats I've been in, it rides way different. I was pleasantly surprised with it. I just had unfortunate mechanical failure with my motor, and I know Lonnie and I were talking before, and I'm actually getting a new 400 on my boat. So I only had 90 hours on it, and I had an oil pump failure over in South Dakota, and man, that's a tough pill to swallow, but it happens.
Yeah, but at least you get a new one though, man. I mean, like we were talking, it's better than them trying to go in and fix it, and then you end up with more problems down the road. So
yeah, it's just unfortunate. But man, in my world, you know, I'm a HVAC, mechanic. I work on industrial, commercial cooling, and man, new stuff is. I'll just come out and say it. New stuff is not very reliable compared to something that was built in 1985. Man, there's so many sensors, and 9 times out of 10, these sensors are the problem, or your leak is coming out of a sensor to protect the motor from having an issue. You know, back in the 60s and 70s, they did not have stuff like that. They were sealed systems that, you know, they didn't have any safeties, but they actually, in the long run, worked better because they didn't have all these protection features. And everything today, when it comes to boats, nothing's mechanical anymore. There's no throttle cable. There aren't.
It's all digital.
It's all digital. And when you have an issue like that, you are dead in the water. And all you can do is shake your head and say a few choice words and move on, you know?
Yeah. Well, at least you got it now. I mean, if you wait a few years, it's going to be electric. So you won't have to worry about all that oil stuff.
I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I don't see that happening. Electric is great when it works, but there are way more issues with electrical supply systems that people understand. Like our power grid is not ready for all these Teslas that people in their imaginary world think, hey, let's all get a Tesla. Well, you know what? The power grid ain't ready for that. The services aren't ready for that. The power lines aren't ready for that. So a lot of people live in a dream world when it comes to stuff like that. We are nowhere near to that point.
Hey, I want my 650 electric, man. Come on.
Can you imagine a blast off when everybody's got 600 horsepower electric? Just dead silence, and you can hear people playing music. And I like this. I like the sound of the big motors and the smell personally.
Oh yeah, when you fire those up.
I don't think our generation is going to have to. I think we got another 20 years before that stuff's going to happen, and I will be too out of shape to be out fishing at that point anyway.
Just get out there in your wheelchair; it'll be all good. You don't have to worry about it.
Well, I'll definitely try, but no, I don't think that's coming anytime soon. I'm definitely not against electric, but we are nowhere near prepared for changing from fossil fuels to electric.
Yeah.
Nowhere near.
I agree. No, anything else, guys?
No, I think I had some other things for Matt, but you know, we went an hour, so we probably don't need to go more than that. I mean, but it was a good talk. I like these talks.
It was a good time. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and next week we're going to talk to the winner of our second tournament, Jordan.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And hopefully we'll have you on again.
Yeah. Anytime you guys want, it's a good time. So
cool. Well, I appreciate it, fellas.
Yep, no problem.
Okay, we'll talk at you later. We'll see you at Potholes.
Yep, we'll see you guys next week. 2 weeks.
Yep.
Yeah. You guys going to be out there this weekend?
I am.
I will be out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll be out there.
Okay, good. I'll look for you. I'll throw that package of plastics at you.
All right.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.